Let's make our backpack UI. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder in our core folder and name this as UI. Open this up, right click, user interface, and we're going to create a new widget blueprint. And this will be of type user widget. And we're going to name this w underscore backpack underscore main. So this is going to be our default view of the backpack. I'm going to go ahead and search for a canvas panel and drop this here. And now how I want my UI to work is the camera is going to pan in front of the player and the player is going to stand right in the middle of the screen right here. And then the player's weapons are going to be on the left side. And then all of the player's inventory is going to be on the right side. And then player is going to have a drag and drop option. The player can drag and drop weapons onto the slot, which would equip and unequip the weapons and such, which is going to be a different video for us to look at. But for now, we're going to create the basics of it. So I'm going to first create a vertical box. And this vertical box, I'm going to go ahead and anchor it to the entire left side here and set the size X to 0 and the offset bottom to 0. So it stretches out like that. And then now I can make this a little bit bigger like this. I'm going to take like 4 grid panels on this side and then another 4 grid panels on that side. That leaves 4 grid panels for our player in the middle. I think it works really good. So first I'm going to name this vertical box as our equipment underscore vertical box. So I know this is for my equipment. I'm going to go ahead and add another vertical box into this canvas panel. And this is going to be anchored to the right side. And again, I'm going to go ahead and reset this offset bottom and also the position. I'm going to make this 0, make everything 0. We want to make it from scratch. And then now I'm just going to drag this for 4 units, just like this. Compile and save. Now this is where the entire backpack content is going to show up. Now if this is too small, we can come back and edit it. But I think this should do the trick for now. And this, I'm going to rename it as items underscore vertical underscore box. So I know these are for the items. For the weapons, I'm going to create a separate UI, which is going to be filled with the weapon information, and it's going to get populated here. Let's go ahead and create a new user interface. Select widget blueprint, user widget. This one's going to be w underscore weapon slot. And this weapon slot is going to be very straightforward. We're not going to do anything crazy here. We're going to get a size box, add it to our weapon slot, and then let's make this desired on screen and select the size box, width and the height override. I usually like to make it like 300 by like 150 or so. And then we can make this bigger or smaller and then change things as we need. Compile. I'm going to go back to my backpack main and then search for this w underscore weapon slot and then drop it right into the equipment so I can see how the size is fitting. And here on the right side, I'm going to center both of it so it actually shows me the actual size. So I think I can make it a little bit more wider and taller. So I have made the size box 500 and 350, and that looks pretty good for now. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this, right click and then go ahead and duplicate. And that will add the second size box in here. Obviously, we don't want to put in these slots here at this time. We are just testing to see how this would look. So we're going to go ahead and do some more modifications. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to take these two and we're going to wrap it with a wrap box. And the wrap box, I'm going to go ahead and center it and then also do a fill on it so it centers the entire thing. And while having the wrap box selected, I'm also going to go to the inner slot padding. On the y-axis, I'm going to add about 100. So it creates that little gap in between the primary and the secondary weapon. And we can use this gap in between to put any type of information that we want. And I do want this wrap box to be on the top actually. And then we're doing a top padding of 50 and then that kind of pushes it down a little. And I think this looks good. And if we're gonna make a grenade system or something in the future, we can add the grenades and stuff at the bottom here. But this actually does the trick for now. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this weapon slot from here. We don't need it because we're going to be adding it to this wrap box based on the actual weapon information. So that's it for the weapon slot. And then now we can do our item slot. Now for our items, we need to have a slot that's defined for individual items before we can actually add it here. So let's go to our content drawer, right click and create a new user interface, widget blueprint, user widget. And let's name this W underscore item slot. And again, this item slot is going to be very simple and straightforward. We're going to add in a new size box in there. I'm going to set this to desired on screen, and the height and the width, I'm going to make it something like, let's say 30 by 30. And now I'm going to go back to my backpack main, and then I'm going to add this in item slot to see how it looks inside. I'm going to select the item slot and then also center it so it doesn't fill the whole thing. And that's how it's going to look. That's really small, so let's make it bigger. Okay, so that's 125 by 125. Now let's go ahead and test this with multiple slots. So I'm going to delete this item slot for now, and I'm going to go ahead and search for a scroll box. The reason why we're adding a scroll box to this is because for now the player is going to have 15 slots, and through the game the player is going to expand their back slot size, and when they do expand, it might go outside of the screen. So we want to have the scroll box so the player can scroll within the item box so they can access everything else in their inventory. And within this scroll box, we also want to add in a wrap box so it keeps everything nice and tight inside of this scroll box. And now we can go ahead and add in our item slot into this wrap box. And again, I'm only adding this for testing purposes. It's not going to be the final state. I just want to see how it fits. So the scroll box is set to fill and auto, just so if you want to see the settings here. I haven't really changed anything. These are default. And then also the wrap box is set to fill here and auto at the top. Horizontal alignments on the left. That's why you see the item is starting in the left. If you set it to the center, then it's going to start in the center, which we don't want. And then your orientation is going to be a horizontal as well. And the item slot is set to fill as well, and there's no padding for any one of them. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this a couple different times, just like this, to see how it will look when we have more and more items in our inventory. So right now it looks good. It does look a little cramped, so let's go ahead and fix that. In our wrap box, the inner slot padding, we're going to change the X to like about 5 and the Y to another 5. That might be a little too much because I have this ugly looking gap here. So I'm going to go ahead and make this like a 3. There you go. Nice, tight. I think it's going to be very well visible. If you want to make it bigger, go for it. You can just go to the item slot and then change this to like, let's say like 250 by 250. And then compile, and if you come back to the main menu, it's going to look something like this, right? If this is what you want, you can go ahead and do that. And you're going to get a scroll bar, so don't worry about these items going underneath this. This is why we added the scroll bar. So when you go in game, you'll be able to scroll through all of it. But for now, I think that 125 by 125 is a good spot for us to be in. And it looks nice and neat. So this is good. And one more thing that I'm going to do is at the very top, I want to have a filter system where I can filter between the weapons and the items and stuff. So I'm going to select the scroll box, and then into the padding settings on the top, I'm going to add a 80 padding. And here you're going to have filters for like weapons and medicine and food and quest items or whatever it is such. Whatever item type that we previously created, we're going to add that in here. So when the player clicks on those buttons, it's going to go ahead and automatically filter this entire wrap box with that items. So I think our inventory grid here looks pretty good as well. And in our item slot, we're going to do a couple things here. I'm going to add in a overlay onto the size box. And then inside of this overlay, I'm going to also add in a border. Now this border, I'm going to select it and make sure it fills. And then I'm going to set the brush color to like a dark gray, or actually black. And then let's make this about 0.5. So it has that little gunmetal gray, but then also like a half opaque background. And I'm going to add in an image inside of this. And this is going to be our icon image. So I'm going to press F2 and then name this icon underscore IMG. Make sure it's set to a variable, and we're going to go ahead and compile. Now this image is way too bright, so I'm going to go ahead and just tone it down to gray. Again, in the future, we're going to add proper image to this, so this will not be gray all the time. For now, it's way too bright, so I just turned it down by making it gray. That's it for the item slot icon. Now let's go ahead and create our stack size. So first I'm going to get another size box, add it to the overlay. And this one I'm going to name this as stack size underscore size box. I'm going to select this size box, and then let's make the width and the height override to about 20 by 20. And I want to add like a 2 padding all the way around, so it's not really sticking at the corner, it's a little bit inside. And then now inside of here, I'm going to add in a border. And I'm going to add in a text inside of this border, just like this. And the text is going to say 999. This is the kind of like the maximum stack size that we want. And then also the size of it would be about like 8. And let's center it all the way around. And we're going to select the border, and then we're going to change the brush color to black, and then also kind of turn it down to like 0.75. Like that. So the actual number, the stack size is visible. Now let's make the spot for our weight and also the value. I'm going to create a horizontal box and put it on this overlay. And inside of this horizontal box, I'm going to add 2 size boxes, just right on top of it. The first one, I'm going to name it as weight. Actually, weight underscore size box. And the second one is the value underscore size box. All right. And this horizontal box, I'm going to put it at the very bottom here, just by selecting the bottom line on the vertical. And then also I'm going to center it. I'm going to select this weight size box, and let's do a width and a height override. And let's make sure that we put it to the left side. And the width is going to be about, let's say 30. And the height is going to be about 10. That's how much we're going to fill it up. And same for the value box. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do a 30 by 10. And I would like to have a small bit of space in between. So I'm going to search for a spacer and then add it right between the weight and the value. And then select the spacer and extend the size so you can get an X and Y. Y is top to bottom and X and Y is the left to right. So on the left to right, I'm going to add in like 10. So it creates that nice little gap in between. Inside of the weight size box, I'm going to first add in a horizontal box, because I want an image and the text right beside it. So this horizontal box, I'm going to add in an image inside of it, just like that. And then also I'm going to add in a text, just like that. And for the image, I have downloaded a icon for a weight and also a little coin to indicate value and weight. And I'm going to be using this. I'm going to drag this and drop it into the weight for the image. And the text block, I'm going to make the size like 5. Now, if the image size is way too big, you can always cut it down by 16 by 16 or something. And then it should kind of like align itself. And the text block, because our weight can go all the way up to like, let's say 999, I'm going to make this as 999. And I'm going to now select this horizontal box, and I'm going to wrap it with a border. Now, if you notice, the horizontal box actually got centered inside of the border, and there's this borderline outside of it. That's because the padding gets added as soon as you wrap it with the border. You can just go ahead and delete it. Oh, let's just make it 0 and then enter, and then that will get rid of that padding. I'm going to select this border and then change the tint of it to black, and then I'm going to make it like 0.75. That's the alpha value of it, so that's the visibility of the background. And that's all I'm going to do. And this text, I'm going to go ahead and name this as weight underscore txt and make this a variable. Compile and save. Now we're going to do the same thing for our value size box. So I'm going to select this border. I'm going to right click and copy it. Click on this value, and I'm going to go ahead and Control V to paste it. And that'll paste the entire same format, same sizing and everything in here. I'm going to select the image and then drag in the coin image in there. Select the coin image, and then again we have to make it 16 by 16. Actually, we can make it 12 by 8. 12 by 8 works the best here. And then also the text, I'm going to rename this as value underscore txt, and then make sure it's a variable. And I'm going to center this text really quickly because I don't like it how it's like at the very top. Same on this side, I'm just going to center it just like that. And we want to center this entire horizontal box as well. Let's stretch it on the top. Okay, there you go. Now I'm going to select this entire horizontal box that has our weight and also the value. And I'm going to add in just one padding all the way around, just so that it's lifted off a little bit. I think this looks pretty good for now. It shows you the value, it shows you the weight, and also we have the stack size up here as well. And if I go back to my backpack main, and this is how it's going to be showing in game. And if I zoom in a little bit, I can see it. Again, we can come back and change the size as we see fit later on in the game. Now let's go ahead and delete all of this item slot. And then let's get into the functionality of this.